Hello everyone and welcome to the latest round in the World Touring Car Series here on RaceSpotTV. It's rounds 19 to 21 of the championship, and we continue our North American jaunt as we head on to Sebring International Raceway for three 20-minute races of our touring car action here. Paul Smith and Connery Maddock are here on commentary for you today. Connery, we're in that midpoint of the season. Championships are starting to see contenders come to the fore. This looks to be a good second half of the championship.
Looking to be a very, very competitive season as well, with multiple drivers in with the chances of the championship, not only in the pro standings but in the AM order as well. So there's still lots of places to look at as we get into the latter parts of this season now. It's going to be very interesting to see how those particular battles mature.
Certainly will be. Well, we started off the season at Circuit Barcelona Catalunya back in July, and then it was Jerez and Monza before we then went to Imola for the fourth week of the championship, and then we started our stateside run at Indianapolis before heading to Road America. Today we're at Sebring International Raceway before we head to Watkins Glen next time out. Virginia International Raceway will finish off that North America run before we then go to the final three rounds of the championship. A traditional trifecta of touring car venues. It's Brands Hatch, Donington and Silverstone, and I can tell you that right now, leading the pro standings, unfortunately we are having a couple of technical problems, so we're not able to show you the graphics, but Ross McFarlane for Pure Sims Esports currently has an 8-point lead in the pro driver standings over Jack Sedgwick and his Was Cooking by CSS Audi. Then 69 points off of the championship leader is Sindre Setsos, who of course won the final race last time out. David Baker is in fourth place, 81 points off your championship leader. And then Esteban Rodriguez is the first one, three figures out from your championship leader in fifth place. Wojciech Savinovic, Damian Harris, Jake Blackhall, Stefan Scheller and Dr. Naveed Hussain round out the top 10 of your pro driver standings. In your AMs, well, it is Craig Williams who leads that one in his Was Cooking by CSS Audi. 36 points lead over the Impulse Racing driver of Andreas Gilman in his Honda. Then 99 points back from the championship leader is Andy Shield in his 3M UK Honda. Martin Shirley is there next, ahead of Damon Mulqueen. Only 3 points between the two of those in fourth and fifth places, with Stuart Bickley, Mikey Pollard, Stein Veinman, Wayne Douglas and Richard Simner rounding out the top 10 of AM. Then into the Teams Championships. 6 teams contend for the Pro Teams Championship, and it's Pure Sims Esports who lead that one by 341 points over Semper Racing. Wave Italy are in third place ahead of RD Simsport. Then it's Carla Esports and Fast Repair Motorsport rounding out the 6 competitive teams in that one. And then in Pro-Am, it is Was Cooking by CSS leading their sister team in the Was Cooking Racing Adventures by 446 points. 3M UK are in third place ahead of Impulse Racing. AI Race Summaries, DCW Yellow, and then the blue team are fifth and sixth places. And Team Mad round out the 7 Pro-Am teams here today. Qualifying is just coming to a close. I can tell you from the virtual paddock there's been a lot of talk going on about the cars, and Connery, the big talk is how the Hyundais seem to be able to handle the bumps.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have a Hyundai on pole position here at the moment. The Veloster of Ross McFarlane grabbing that one by quite a margin, actually. 0.8 of a second over Ben Palmer, who lines up in second place here at the moment. We'll get the full grid here in just a couple of moments' time, but yeah, seems like the Hyundai's holding things quite well, although it is still a mixed front of the grid with a Veloster on pole, a Civic on the front row, and an Audi on the second row behind.
Yeah, absolutely. So we will run you through your starting grid then. And as Connery says, it is Ross McFarlane for Pure Sims Esports in his Hyundai Veloster. Sets the pole position time at 2 minutes 13.124 for him. Nearly 0.8 of a second back is second placed Ben Palmer. for the 3M UK team in his Honda. Then it's the first of the Audis in third place. Jack Sedgwick for Was Cooking by CSS. Remember, him and Ross McFarlane are only covered by 8 points in the championship. David Baker for Pure Sims Esports is 4th place on the grid. The first of your AM drivers, Andreas Gilman for Impulse Racing, then in his Honda is 5th, and alongside him is the Team Hersingveld, Stefan Scheller, 6th place. The next row number 4, it's Vibe Nijkamp, again another one of those Impulse Racing cars with Jake Blackhall for Pure Sims Esports. Then Dan Martin in his RD SimSport car, 9th. Alongside him, Craig Williams, the next AM for What's Cooking by CSS, 10th place. Sandra Setsource, well, he'll be disappointed with 11th place on the grid for the What's Cooking Racing Adventures driver. Damien Harris, another one of those Audi drivers in Wave Italy team, in 12th, with his teammate Dr. Navid Hussein in 13th place. Tony Weisschaft for the Team Racing Nederland is 14th. Then it's a bunch of AM drivers. Richard Simner in the AI Race Summaries DCW Racing Yellow car, with Martin Shirley RD SimSport is alongside him in 16th place. Elliot Roberts for the Was Cooking Racing Adventures team in 17th, with Patrick Faulkner in the AI Racing Summaries DCW Racing Yellow team in 18th. Then we've got 4 cars who have not set lap times. Wojciech Savinovic and his Semper Racing teammate Slavomir Jaworski start on the 10th row of the grid. Andy Shield for 3M UK is joined right at the back with Mikey Pollard for the AI Race Summaries DCW Racing, and we are going to be underway. That was a very, very quick start to this race. I wasn't expecting it to be that quick, but we are heading down towards turn number 1. Ross McFarlane does have the lead here over Ben Palmer, with David Baker and Andreas Gilman then in third and fourth places. Jack Sedgwick has been left behind. He's had an awful start. I'm sure we'll be able to have a look at the start a little bit later, but right now it is Gilman who's in 4th place. Great start for the AM driver. Number 83, Slavomir Jaworski, has had an issue at turn number 1, and Dr. Navid Hussein hasn't even taken to the start of this race, so obviously issues for Navid. Heading down to the hairpin for the first time. McFarlane from Palmer, for Baker, from Gilman, Scheller in a good 5th place. We've got more 2-wide action a little bit further back. And as we go through the Fangio S for the first time here in this race, everybody getting themselves settled pretty much, although Palmer having to go defensive here from David Baker, and in fact Baker does make it through up into 2nd place. That's 2 places gained for David Baker at the start of this race. Ben Palmer down 1, and we've got 2-wide action a little bit further back as well. So action aplenty here in the early going. Andy Shields gained 3 places at the start of this race, so certainly some movers in this field. But at the front, Ross McFarlane, he's already half a second clear of David Baker, and Palmer 3rd place now. And another one, Mikey Pollard, has had issues out there. He's been stopped, and in fact he's taken a tour to the pit lane. So Mikey Pollard, well, they're dropping like flies here, Connery, on this opening lap, with one driver not taking the start, one going back to the pits, and one having issues at turn 1.
Yeah, lots of drama indeed, and that short halt might have caught a couple of them by surprise. Certainly caught us by surprise. Although the cameras did switch on the drop of the green flag there completely unexpectedly, so I do apologise for that, but it was completely unexpected on my side as well. But coming across the line to complete the first lap of things then, it is Ross McFarlane from David Baker, from Ben Palmer, and it seems like we've had an incident through the exit of Sunset Bend. Dan Martin.
Yeah, I saw that flash up on my screen. It's Dan Martin and Andy Shield, and both of those cars look distinctly second-hand here. Let's have a look back then. So this is Dan Martin going into and he's just lost the back end. It's cold tyres, don't forget. He's avoided the barriers. So, that's what happened. Shield came absolutely flying in there. I don't think he was ever stopping that car, and I think again, another one of those cars. It's another Honda. Just could not get the car stopped for Sunset Bend.
Yeah, absolutely. So issues through that corner. Like you said, cold tyres definitely a factor. Even though they're still the end of the first lap, they're not quite fully up to temperature at that point. So they can be a little ice skatey, especially through such a demanding corner on the grip of the tyres as is Sunset Bend. You're on the absolute limit of grip coming through there, and if you don't get the performance out of the tyres, well, it can end in tears like you've just seen for two of your drivers there. But on the second lap of things then, it seems like the Paul Sims gang at the front of McFarlane has been continuing to do very well with his teammate of Baker behind as well, with those early position gains, putting him, well, getting Paul Sims a front row 1-2 here at the moment. But it is Ben Palmer that's under pressure here, I get the feeling, Paul, because Gilman's giving him a run for his money. Of course, they are from two different classes, so to speak, here, with the difference between Pro and Am. But as we go on about often here in World Sim Racing, all of the positions matter, no matter what class you're in.
And as well, don't forget as well that it is a small grid here today, 22 entries here today, rather than the normal grid size that we've been getting in the 30s. So yeah, definitely an opportunity for Gilman to score some big points. Jack Sedgwick, I did see, gained a position back on Stefan Scheller. So they're still side by side going into turn one here. So Scheller's not giving this one up. But it was a poor start, I do believe, from Jack Sedgwick. I do wonder if we'll be able to have a look at his start, because he dropped 4 places at the start of the race from 3rd. So definitely had issues. Here we go then, and as we look then at the start, look at Jack Sedgwick, the Audi on the right hand side, and lights up the tyres. There goes one. There goes another. He's going to get absolutely swarmed here down into turn 1, and it's the worst feeling in the world. I can tell you that, when you get a poor start and you're spinning tyres away and there's very little that you can do about it. And that is what happened to Jack Sedgwick at the start of this race that caused him to drop down the field. Bullard was way back in front and gets back running in the field. But certainly Sedgwick is, as we always like to say here, especially if Peter Mackay's in the commentary box with me, a suboptimal start.
Yeah, not ideal by any means, but he was able to put a stop to it. He was, like you said, he was able to bully his way in front of one of those cars there to stop the freight train from happening, because there are some places on this circuit where if you're caught offline, then you're going to have a big task ahead of you to try and slot back into the train of traffic, especially on the first lap of things. So good job for Cedric to do that. He's still got 13.5 minutes to try and recover a couple more positions here. Especially if Ben Palmer and Gilman are basically holding each other up here. That might be a good opportunity for Cedric to get stuck in and have a battle for potentially getting onto the podium.
Yeah, he could well get himself back into those positions. With it being a smaller grid as well, you're more likely to get a full reverse grid, because our reverse grid wheel does actually go to 24. Well, effectively, if we get anything that is 22 or higher, that is a full reverse grid here today. So that is worth having a look at. Speaking of looking at, the Impulse Racing driver, Vibe Nijkamp, down the inside into turn 1, an aggressive move to the inside, down the inside of Scheller in his Elantra. Now the Elantra is in theory the more favoured car around this Sebring International Raceway. It's a longer wheelbase, it's more stable. A couple of the drivers have been complaining, especially the Hyundai Veloster drivers have been complaining that the back end almost wants to swing around on them and enter the corner before the front end of the car is set source now to the inside in his Audi. And that's the strong point of the Audi, the grunt, the run down through Big Bend, down towards the hairpin. That is where the Audi is strong. But this Audi apparently has been awful on the bumps here today in practice so far. Still 12 minutes remaining in this round number 19 of the World Touring Car Series. And certainly a pleasure to have you all joining us here on this broadcast. And Scheller then, Setsource then, moving forward. That's 3 places gained from where he started in this race, and he's moving in the correct direction for what he needs, because coming into this round of the championship, 69 points behind Ross McFarlane. That's not nice. He wants to be a lot closer than that in the championship.
Yeah, he'll be a few more behind at the end of this race with how things are going. So he really does need to try and minimise that gap here in the first race. The cars have kept themselves relatively close together here in the opening half of the race, because the gap between leader Ross McFarlane and Sindre Setsource in 8th place is only 4 seconds here at the moment. So that is not a huge margin between first and 8th, excuse me, as we see a little bit of a swap around going on behind Damon Owen Harris through Blackhall, losing a position to Craig Williams. So that's another couple of points for the AM driver, running second in AM here for the moment. He's going to have to try and defend on the way down in towards turn number 1. Further down the road, defending already happening as Scheller and Setsource decide to duel, heading their way through turn 1. Got to be so careful on the exit here not to track out too wide if your car on the inside, because the car on the outside doesn't have a lot of places to go.
Oh, it's still absolutely tight together. You can fit 2 cars through here, and Setsource does make it past Scheller, so up chalk, another position gained for Sindre. That's now 4 places gained in this race, and he's in fact the biggest mover in this field. Jake Blackhall, by the way, ran very deep into Sunset Bend. That's why he lost 2 places to both Damien Harris and to Craig Williams. As we reach the halfway point of this opening race of the evening, it is Ross McFarlane who leads from David Baker. Only half a second just over between the 2 of those, with Ben Palmer in 3rd place. Your top AM is Andreas Gilman, 4th place right now, and he's got a ton of places back to Craig Williams in 10th, who's the next best AM, and Richard Simner, who's in 12th place right now for 3rd place in AM. Track conditions are quite warm, 38 degrees C on the track, so they will be feeling an effect of that towards the end of the race. And the thing is, we're only coming up to 11 AM in sim time. Potentially that track temperature in the later sessions, Connery, is just going to keep on going up.
Yeah, it might be quite balmy in the second race of today, that's for sure. If we don't have much cloud temperature, you can tell how tired I am today, cloud cover, then potentially we'll be looking into the 40 degrees centigrade mark there, as we see a dive down the inside by Jack Sedgwick in the Craig setup shop car, and I think he'll get this done by the exit as well. Caught Gilman napping.
To be honest, I think Gilman kind of, when he saw that dart to the inside, went, oh, do you know what, Jack, after you, mate. You want the position, you have it. Gilman's in a very good place right now in terms of AM, in terms of getting championship points in AM. He doesn't want to fall back too many more places though. He's in 5th place, his nearest championship rival is in 10th, so he's getting a good haul of points over Craig Williams in this opening race. If anybody can get a good reverse grid race result, it is Craig Williams, so you've always got to keep that in mind. Under the bridge, under our camera position, and down towards the hairpin once again. Now, Jack Sedgwick's next target is Ben Palmer. Now, Ben is a feisty character. He knows how to defend a position, and he can really put some hard charging moves on, can Ben, so Jack's not going to have it quite as easy. As we look back to Harris and Scheller, Scheller's been falling back a little bit in this race, down 3 places from where he started. Damien Harris has been following Sindre Setsource in gaining 4 places in this race.
Yeah, there's a couple of big gainers so far in this one, and we are a good couple of laps from being done for this first race of 3 in this particular race meeting. As we see Damon Owen Harris try and keep that train of cars behind. Scheller has been certainly harassing the rear bumper of that Audi for the last couple of moments, and of course Williams and Blackwell not that far behind either. So a great little 4-car battle pack that we have here in the midfield, just inside of our top 10 here today. Things closing up though for P3 as they head their way down towards Sunset Bend. Let's see how aggressive Cedric gets here with Ben Palmer, because you've already noted, Paul, that Palmer can be a very, very firm defender. Let's see if the immovable object can stop the unstoppable force.
I've raced against Ben. I've also been teammates with Ben for a number of years, so I know what he's like. He's not really a little bit of a light move into turn 1 there. Back of that Honda looks very, very lively indeed going into turn 1. So it's got some good rotation on that car. Of course, Ben is a former Mini Challenge competitor, and so he knows the style of racing that's needed here. He's raced in touring car racing here on the iRacing service in leagues, not just this one, but other leagues as well, for, as I say, number of years. And look at him, he's holding that inside line. He's saying, Jack, if you want to go past, you've got to go the long way around. Now, around the hairpin, that's not really a viable move there. But Cedric will try and get the run out of the hairpin, use the slipstream, and look, the best seat in the house is Viva Nykamp. Andreas Gilman, sorry, who's got his teammate behind him. Cedric to the outside of Palmer. You can hold it around the outside there. It gives you the inside for the next long left-hander in towards Tower, and yes, through. Cedric is through. Palmer's down a place. Up to the podium for Cedric.
Yeah, Cedric's hard charging. This has been a stellar recovery drive so far from the Was Cooking CSS Audi. It was a very, very poor start indeed. Just didn't get the traction coming off the starting grid. Ended up getting swamped by multiple cars, but he's been able to fight himself back through. Less than 5 minutes to go now. With the pace that he's had, I mean, he could probably get onto the back of Baker. Whether or not he'll be able to pass him is a different issue given the time remaining, but he's done very well to get himself onto the podium.
I think there's a big enough gap between Cedric and Baker that he's just outside of the slipstream, and he's dragging 3 other cars behind him, so he's creating the hole in the air. In fact, he's got 4 cars because Indra Setsos is coming onto the back of this group of cars, and as we go along, Ben Palmer's internet deciding that now's the time to engage the cloaking device for him. That's not exactly ideal. When you're in a close pack like this, it can really unsettle you if you're the car behind, especially because suddenly you're thinking, where's that other car gone? But fortunately, it settles down again, and so Palmer's just going to bide his time. But is he going to be able to mount a challenge, or is he worried more about Gilman and Nykamp behind?
Not entirely sure at this stage. Going to need more evidence to try and come to a conclusion there. But we are setting up for a pretty exciting final couple of minutes of this event. They're nose to bumper going through the hairpin there. Palmer, Gilman, Nykamp, all in very, very close proximity. Set Source on the outside looking into this one as well. Don't underestimate that purple livery car behind. Certainly going to make a huge impact when he's on it. But it's going to be tough. It's tough ass against the competition here.
Certainly is. You quite rightly pointed out that clock is ticking down. Time is running out here in this race. Ross McFarlane's now got a 1 second lead over his teammate of David Baker. It's Ben Palmer who's having the internet issue in 4th place. Jack Sedgwick in 3rd. And Andreas Gilman, he's in that unenviable position right now. He wants to make a move on Palmer, but he's got to do so in a way that he knows that he won't end up wiping out Palmer or indeed himself if Ben's connection keeps on carrying on like this.
Yeah, this is one of the tricky parts of internet racing, I'm afraid. If we're not on a local server or on a LAN like you can do on some other sims, these issues come with the territory, and how you manage to race around them, it will be the deciding factor here. The white flag is out. This is going to be the start of the final lap. And down in towards turn number 1 we come. It's still, you know, you can't separate these guys for the moment. I have to wonder how the Impulse guys are going to be managing this. Gilman and Nykamp, given their proximity to each other.
Well, Nykamp, he's not really involved in the championship fight right now. So I would say that he really needs to play a supporting role to his teammate Andreas Gilman, because Gilman's in an AM championship fight here. He has got the opportunity of gaining some big points over Craig Williams in this opening race of the evening. Don't forget, folks, there's 3 races tonight. This is the first of 3. 2 more 20-minute races coming up after this one, so do stick around for all the action. And of course, the grid is set on the spin of a wheel for races 2 and 3, as Setsource now looking a little bit more into making some moves potentially here. So he goes through the long sweeping left-hander. This is the last lap, so if he's got to make the move, he's got to make it here on this last lap. But Nykamp right now holding on to that 6th place ahead of Setsource in his Was Cooking Racing Adventures car. Through we go, through Bishop in towards the end of the lap. Head towards the penultimate corner at Le Mans, clattering the curbs there. That's what you can do in these touring cars. And Setsource is looking to get a really good run down the Ullman Straight for the final time. There you see your race leader in the foreground of the shot, Ross McFarlane. He's got a 1.5 second lead. Gilman is trying to give his teammate as much of a slipstream as possible, but Setsource to the outside of Sunset Bend. Last lap, last opportunity to make the move. If he can hold it around the outside, he can get on the power. They've almost come together. They were rubbing door handles, but across the line, Ross McFarlane, he takes the race win. And it's Andreas Gilman who takes the AM win here in this race. My goodness, drama right at the end there between Setsource and Nykamp. Setsource and Nykamp came together. They were rubbing door handles. Fortunately, didn't end up being anything larger than what it was. Shirley and Paddy Faulkner just beats out Elliot Roberts. So no change of positions there. And wow, Dan Martin, I think both Martin and Shield can feel a little bit unlucky about the incident that happened at the end of lap 1.
Yeah, I think so too. But the thing is, they are likely to be in a reverse grid position here at the moment, given the size of the grid that we have here today. So I don't think the bad luck will last for long for those drivers. Here comes Shield across the line. At least they got back out there. They used their 1 allocated fast repair that these guys get during these races to get a fresh car and get back out there on circuit. But that's race number 1 done and in the books here for the moment, Paul, and we can get a little bit of a look at what our starting grid for the next race is going to be like once we spin the wheel.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's have the spin of the wheel then and see where it will come and see what that reverse grid is. It's a big reverse spin. Whether we will get a big reverse draw. It's 19. So Dan Martin could count himself fortunate. Andy Shield, unfortunately, does not get that reverse grid draw in his favour. So that is 19th will get the reverse grid pole. So let's have a look at your provisional race results here from race number 1 of the evening here in the World Touring Car Series. It's Ross McFarlane who wins that one by 1.6 seconds over his Pure Sims Esports teammate of David Baker. Jack Sedgwick for Was Cooking by CSS finishes in 3rd place. It's where he started, but that's only half of the story. Ben Palmer for 3M UK finishes 4th ahead of the top AM. Andreas Gilman, Impulse Racing, finishes where he started in 5th place. Phoebe Nykamp, the Impulse Racing teammate, in 6th, just, and I mean just, ahead of Sindra Setsource, who finishes 7th. Damien Harris in 8th ahead of Stefan Scheller, who dropped down the order in 9th. And Craig Williams, 2nd placed AM driver for the Was Cooking by CSS team, in 10th place. 11th place then for Jake Blackhall, ahead of the final AM podium sitter, which is Richard Simner in that AI Race Summaries DCW Racing Yellow. Tony Weishaft in 13th ahead of Martin Shirley. Paddy Faulkner ahead of Elliot Roberts, with Wojciech Savinovic not able to move his way up through the field like you would expect him to. 17th ahead of his teammate in Slavomir Jaworski. Dan Martin, who we saw having that spin and then getting collected by Andy Shield at the last corner of lap number 1. Martin finishes 19th and he gets pole position for race number 2. Mikey Pollard and Dr. Naveed Hussain. Well, Pollard did not finish. Naveed Hussain did not start this race. So that is the end of the opening race of the evening here in the World Touring Car Series here on RaceSpotTV. We've got 2 more 20-minute sprint races to go, though, here tonight from the Sebring International Raceway. And it certainly was... there wasn't too much movement throughout the field, looking at my timing screen in total. Setz and Harris did a good drive through the field to get themselves up into 7th and 8th places, gaining 4 places each. It was pretty much as you were and hold position for a lot of the drivers out there.
Yeah, that's excuse me. Just coming off being a bit under the weather the last few days. But that's just how we see first races go sometimes, because everyone is in roughly their representative position for their pace, so therefore we tend to get a little bit less action in race 1s. But of course, with the 19 car reverse grid that we have here for race 2, what a chance for Dan Martin to try and bounce back from what was a diabolical race number 1. It's probably fair to say. I do feel bad, though, for Andy Shield just narrowly missing out on that reverse grid. I mean, they were both involved in the same incident, but one has come out much better than the other in terms of the reverse grid.
It's just the luck of the draw, unfortunately, sometimes is how things go. But yeah, it's... Dan Martin, certainly the one who's got the look there and all of that. But certainly a great opportunity for Dan Jaworski and Wojciech Savinovic, because those two, for Semper Racing, they started at the back of the grid and they just did not progress forward at all.
Yeah, just a little bit stuck there. I'll be very interested to see how they do in race 2 here, if they're able to hold on positions, because that is a very tricky prospect here at Sebring, given the amount of opportunities that you have to try and get by. You can get by in Sunset Bend, you can get by in Turn 1, maybe even an attempt into Turn 3 if you can maintain the side-by-side into the hairpin. There's so many different places that you have to be really on top of your game when it comes to defending. Otherwise you're going to be dropping down the field. So that's kind of the main focus for the next race. Of course, we may even indeed have much higher temperatures as well, which will make the tyres struggle even more than they seem to be struggling at the moment with this current iteration of the cars. So it's going to be a very, very interesting race 2 here.
It certainly is. Drivers are just getting themselves into the practice session before before the next race this evening. So what we will do is we'll take the opportunity to just step aside for just a few moments and hear from the series sponsors. You are watching the World Touring Car Series here on RaceSpotTV. Stick around. We'll be right back after these. Welcome back to the World Touring Car Series coverage. It's round number 20 of the season here, and certainly been an entertaining opening race. This round, however, we are going to have a big reverse grid. 19 cars reversed on the grid, so certainly this is going to be an intriguing race to see how Ross McFarlane can go through the field, because if ever there is a circuit where you can make places up, it is Sebring International Raceway, Connery.
Yep, it absolutely is. We did touch on it a little bit during before the break that we had, with the wealth of opportunities to squeeze your way through at this particular circuit, and we'll see that perhaps on full display, given that we have a relatively full reverse grid here for this particular event. We're going to have a little bit of a look at the track conditions, shall we? Because we were hyping this up beforehand. Well, we got mostly cloudy, but however, despite mostly cloudy, Paul, 39 degrees Celsius.
Yeah, it is rather toasty out there on track. So again, that there is opportunity for drivers who maybe are a little bit kinder on their tyres to make moves towards the end of a race, and certainly opportunities can come forward. We did have one driver not take the start of the last round, which was Dr. Naveed Hussain, and unfortunately he's not so far coming to this server, although we still have 4 minutes remaining to go, so hopefully he will be able to get here. But certainly these drivers, it's a great opportunity not just for Dan Martin, but some of the AM drivers who as well. I'm looking at people like Paddy Faulkner and Elliot Roberts. It gives them a great opportunity to get some good points here. Yep,
fantastic opportunity, as reverse grids always are, of course. But it's all about capitalising on it. You know, how many times have we seen a pole position sitter in race 2 or 3, or even a front row starter, just completely bottle it in the first sector? Too many times is the answer to that. So those sorts of situations will be playing on the mind a little bit if you're starting roughly near the front here, especially if you're not used to starting so far up in this particular league. Sometimes that pressure does really get to you, and you immediately make the critical mistake.
Can I just say that I feel a little bit triggered by those comments, Connery, because my final ever act in this championship was starting from pole position at Belle Isle, and on the exit of turn 2, finding the wall of the outside of the track, and ended up causing the mother and father of all start line accidents. Those were the final acts of me actually competing in this championship, so I do feel that well, this is a picture of me, and I feel offended by it, but certainly it is quite a lot of pressure when you've got a grid of cars behind you and you're not used to being in that position. If you're used to being mid-pack or towards the rear of the grid, and suddenly you find yourself at the front, it can be a little bit daunting if you've not got that experience there.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, some of these guys are high I rating enough to know that they're on an official split, and an official top split, they're going to be starting near the front. So they're not necessarily going to be completely inexperienced with regards to it. However, with a grid of this level of competition, it may be a little bit different. So just to give you an example of the I ratings, by the way, we have highest I rating in the sessions, Indre Setsource, 8,535. Lowest is, I can spot, Elliot Roberts, and he's just shy of 3,000. So even the lowest I rating person in this field is double my I rating. So so there we go. Well, make of that what you will. But
well, I mean, if I was racing in this race, I would comfortably be the lowest I rating driver on the grid. So, but I rating doesn't make everything. It does give an indication, but certain people, I know for a fact that my I rating itself, the majority of that is because of doing touring car racing. Get me in anything else, like a GT car, as we see on a every 3 weeks on a Tuesday evening with the World Sports Car Championship. Get me in a GT car and, quite frankly, I'm appalling. But that's just it. You know, there's certain cars that suit certain people, and they can build iRating with those vehicles compared to others. So certainly, iRating is a good indication, but it's not the be-all and end-all of how good a driver is. And just because you've got 7,000 iRating doesn't mean that only your opinion matters. That's a comment to somebody who tweeted to me on Twitter once and basically said, well, I haven't got 7,000 iRating, so my opinion doesn't count. Not the fact that I've been watching motorsport for over 35 years. I'm not bitter about it at all, Connery.
No, not bitter at all. I mean, if he's complaining about your iRating, I dread to think what he'll think of mine. But so
Elliot's giving us a good demonstration in the iRacing damage model as well, there, whilst him and his teammate.
Don't worry, I've tested that a lot.
Oh yeah, yes, myself as well. We are going to be getting ourselves set for the second race of the evening. So we will take a look then at your starting grid, and it is going to be Dan Martin who starts on pole position for RD SimSport. He is there on the front row. Alongside him is Wojciech Savinovic for Semper Racing in second. Third is Elliot Roberts with the Was Cooking Racing Adventures, and Paddy Faulkner. They're going to continue their battle in third and fourth places. Fifth is Martin Shirley, again another RD SimSport car in the top six with Tony Weishaft. Then in the next row of the grid, number 4, it's Richard Simner and Jake Blackall, with Craig Williams and Stefan Scheller on row number 5. Row 6, it's Damien Harris and Cedric Setsource. 7th row of the grid is Vibe Nijkamp and Andreas Gilman, with Ben Palmer and Jack Sedgwick. Then on row number 8. Row number 9, it's David Baker and Ross McFarlane. 10th row of the grid, it is Andy Scheel and Mikey Pollard, with Slavomir Jaworski having to serve a penalty starting from the back of the grid. So 21 cars take to the grid here in the second race of this evening. Of course, 3 races make a race evening. Dan Martin in his Honda Civic will want to be getting a good start, so too will Wojciech Savinovic again in his Honda Civic. So the number of Hondas up there, 5 in the top 6 are Hondas. That's sole Audi of Elliot Roberts being the different car there. Got about 18 seconds before the start here, Connery. Have you got a pick, or is it just going to be a bit of action?
Just a lot of action. Let's just say that. For all intents and purposes, a reverse grid, except for a few stragglers at the end. This is potentially going to give us a little bit of a chaotic race, but hopefully in the positive sense.
Well, the revs rise. The drivers look to start his gantry. Barney is ready. Green flag in the air, we're underway, and it's a good start from the front row. Elliot Roberts, though, has got a great launch as well. He's finding himself between the middle of the 2 front row sitters. He's past Wojciech Savinovic, but he's on the outside of Dan Martin. Can he go all the way around the outside? The answer is no. Cold tyres has just pushed him wide there. Savinovic goes back in front of Roberts. Oh, after such a sterling start there from Elliot, just drops back in to third place where he started, as the rest of the field is working their way through. Turn 5 into Big Bend, turn number 6 underneath the rebuilt bridge and heading towards the hairpin. Roberts is not giving this one up. He has got a fight with Wojciech Savinovic here. He wants to get as many points as possible in his Audi, but a late move to try and cover off Paddy Faulkner. Faulkner's not having any of that in his DCW racing car. They rub paint, and Faulkner gets himself ahead in his Honda, and Roberts is around! Roberts is around! Oh, and he's going to find the barrier. And that was contact between him and Richard Simner. Again, another one of those DCW racing cars. Roberts is able to carry on, I can tell you that. But at the front, it's Martin from Savinovic. Faulkner has actually lost a place to his teammate Simner. So Simner's now up into third place, gain of 4 places, but I think as his car's going wide out of Tower, I think there's going to be a lot of discussion about that one in the paddock after this race.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get a replay of it in a second before we really pass any judgments, but didn't look too good as there's a dive down the inside here. Tony Weishaft in the 206 with an aggressive move on the DCW racing car of Falconer, who hopefully is, for him, is not carrying a bit of damage after that incident. But I have to wonder, given how fast he lost the position to his teammate there. Side by side further behind as well. We had side by side for the race lead as well, which is already concluded, and it brings Savinovic to the front.
Yeah, Wojciech Savinovic then to the head of the field. He'll be looking to move forward now and to try and break away at the front. But Dan Martin, he's a feisty character. Oh, Weishaft, speaking of being feisty, we've got Damien Harris, Weishaft, and we've got Paddy Voltner here, all fighting it out for 4th place. Voltner's holding on to it right now. Weishaft's trying to go down the inside. Harris is going down the outside. There's a terse flash of the headlights from Weishaft. Here comes Craig Williams in his tank by the looks of things. It was leaping, was his Audi, but he stays behind Weishaft for the time being. But my goodness, already action aplenty here at the front of the field. This is what we expect from a race number 2 of the evening, and it's only going to get more and more action-packed towards the end here. More moves to the inside. Oh, bang, there's a bang of doors. Setsos and Williams. Now, they are compatriots running out of the Was Cooking Racing Adventures outfit, although the CSS team of Craig Williams in front of Setsos. But Sindre wants to move forward once again to try and score some good points as Weishaft now, bang, door banging past Paddy Voltner. I think the gloves are off in this second race by the looks of things, Connery.
Absolutely, 2 by 2 as Williams looks at least briefly to the inside of Weishaft. Williams going to need a bit of a, well, replacement doors after this race. They can't be cheap on an Audi RS3, let me tell you that. Maybe a tiny bit cheaper on the Civic, but yeah, another little look to the inside there. Williams is not out here to play around, that's for certain, but he has a lot of pressure coming from behind as well. Faulkner trying to fight back. Setsos continuing to charge forward as well here for this moment in time. Now in that slipstream coming down the back straight to enable the move down in towards Sunset Bend. A big amount of draft and a big amount of grunt from that Audi engine keeps the Craig Sharp car ahead as the two behind fight as Setsos and Faulkner.
Faulkner tried to sort of do a cut under. Oh, there's battling behind, and Shirley's the big loser out of all that because Sedgwick, Baker, Nykamp and Palmer have all made their way past Martin Shirley. Ross McFarlane's getting involved in this gaggle of cars as well. To the inside of one, can they go through? Well, Nykamp is getting ahead of David Baker now at this point, so it is really, they're all tripping over each other further down the field, so they're not able to make the positions that they would like to be doing. Although through turn number 5 into Big Ben turn 6, and now I would have to say that Nykamp is getting a little bit crowded out here, and it's a free M and Piozim's train that's trying to freight train him. Oh, Nykamp's off into the wall. He's going to bounce back on. Oh, that was Scheller who got involved in that one. So, there was also Andy Shield caught in all of that as well. A tour back to the pits for Nykamp, but I don't know what on earth happened there, but suddenly his car went speared off to the left.
Yeah, well, we'll take a look at it. Let's see what happened here on the replay. That's not a great view. We won't be able to tell much from that particular angle. Let's try and get a little bit of a different perspective on things here to see exactly what went wrong for Wiebe Nykamp there.
Oh. Ooh. Now, was Palmer coming across left? I mean, couldn't see clearly on that one, so I'm not going to apportion blame there. I mean, you suddenly just see the car just dart to the left. I mean, when a car darts across like that to the left, and we've got to remember, Palmer's internet hasn't been the best either. this evening, that could be a case of and people are going to scream at me now, but the netcode that's involved in that, when somebody has a connection problem, it can it can cause a bigger sort of bubble around them. Mikey Pollard, by the way, he's not had a good night tonight. He's retired, he's back into the pits and retired the car. Elliot Roberts has retired as well in all of this, and this is the one that we wanted to look at, isn't it, Connery? Elliot Roberts, it was right on lap 1. We've been having plenty of action to go on at all of this, but it was out of the hairpin and then through Fangio S where the contact happened between himself and Richard Simner.
Yeah, indeed it was. So we'll let this one run through here for the moment. We'll keep you updated if anything happens on the live pictures here. But we see Elliot Roberts getting the side-by-sides with the Semper racing car. Is Savinovic there? Then he has Faulkner dive down the inside. Then what happens with Simner once he gets himself involved here? Because there was a little bit of a moment there, and he just tags him around.
I mean, from that initial viewing, there isn't enough of an overlap for you to say, but it's a case of whether there was enough, if there was a move made in all of that. We're not looking at Ross McFarlane, by the way, in all of that, but we'll go back to live pictures then and get you up to speed with what's going on. Wojciech Savinovic now has a 2.5 second lead over Dan Martin, so he's been able to pull away in his Semper Racing car. Dan Martin in second place ahead of Richard Simner. Now Damien Harris, he's gained 7 places in this race so far. He wants to move ahead of Richard Simner in all of this. Simner is your top am as well, it's worth pointing out, in third place. So he'll want some good points. Your next best am in all of this is Craig Williams in 6th. I said that he's good for a race too. Well, he's in 6th place right now, and Paddy Faulkner, after starting up near the front and getting involved in all that shenanigans, is down to 10th place now because Ross McFarlane has just made the move through. As side-by-side action, Setsource, Williams, and there's Jack Sedgwick involved in all of this as well. I think if you're Sedgwick, you're screaming at them going, please, can you just let me get ahead, please?
Yeah, well, he's just about going to be getting ahead of Setsource here as long as he can complete the move down the inside at turn 1. He might be a bit slow coming off the corner here, so a response possible by Setsource in through the first sector, but no, he'll just stay behind here for now. Cedric will set up behind his teammate and basically push his teammate through the corner. I don't think Craig Williams would be too appreciative of that. Maybe just give Jack giving the hurry up, because he has been definitely one of, if not the quickest car in race pace here today. I know at the end of race 1 he was running times faster than the top 2 were when he was in 3rd place. And there we go, down the inside of Williams. I don't think Williams is going to fight this one too hard, although he does try and stick it out there.
There's no team orders. There's no team orders in this team. You can see Williams got the better run out of the hairpin. Setsource is now trying to bump draft Jack Sedgwick, because Setsource wants to follow Sedgwick through because he's not been able to get past Craig Williams. Williams wants to score big points for his championship. Jack Sedgwick wants to score big points to try and gain back what Ross McFarlane gained in race number 1, and they're still bumping and barging, they're swapping paint. Come on, settle things down. You're supposed to be teammates, and after while all this is happening, Ross McFarlane has got onto the back of this group because they've been squabbling between themselves.
Yeah, well, at the end of the long protracted battle, it is Cedric that comes out victorious in that one, and now Setsource looking really hot on the back of Craig Williams here through Le Bon corner. Onto the back straight they come, and well, we see Faulkner just darting his way towards driver's right-hand side. He's
slow down penalty.
Yeah, absolutely. Loses a couple of positions as a result. Falls back in at the very back of the train as nose to tail in this particular grouping.
As still, Setsource not able to get ahead of Craig Williams in all of this. So Cedric has been able to get ahead of his teammates. Set Source now looking to make a move towards turn number 1. It's Audi on Audi. Both of them was Cooking Racing Adventures teams, but one being the Craig Setup Shop outfit with Craig Williams at the wheel. And Ross McFarlane, he's loitering with intent here. That's a dive and a half from Set Source. Gets it stopped on the apex. Williams gives it a bit back. Set Source now down the inside of 5 and 4. Still a squeeze there and still not able to make it past. Well, look at the Pure Sims boys now. They've got on show here. And Ross McFarlane, he's sat here going, well, where do I go in all of this? I can't go right, I can't go left. Hopefully it doesn't go straight through. But still, the side by side, Ross needs to try and dispose of these two very quickly. Set Source and Williams still absolutely neck and neck in their Audis as they head towards the right-hander of Cunningham. And Set Source is just ahead, although Williams is still fighting this one out. You're slowing each other down here, guys. Well, finally Set Source is through. McFarlane is trying to make quick work of Williams here because he knows just how hard Williams defends.
Yep, and around the outside he goes. Does he get traction off the corner to be able to pull ahead? No, they're still absolutely level, although the Pure Sims car does have the inside, a little bit of a nudge there with the door as they head through the high-speed left-handers here towards the very back end of the lap, angling their way into the sweeper now, and they're still wheel to wheel. And look at how Set Source has broken away from them already. That's the result of going side by side through some of these corners. You get yourself a second gap. Craig Williams has been able to keep McFarlane behind, but for how long, I am not sure, because there's another threat incoming.
There is, and I'm surprised that Williams didn't try shutting off the inside line there going into Sunset Bend, but he doesn't. There goes McFarlane through. Now, has Williams got a slight bit of front end damage? I think he might do, you know, and that might be hampering his top speed a little bit here. He's fighting back against McFarlane here. He doesn't want to make it easy for the Pure Sims driver. And he's going to try and make it around the outside. Still holding that line. That compromises McFarlane to a degree, but McFarlane's in the right place at the right time. Through he goes, and David Baker now getting involved. Oh, there's a little bit of a touch between Williams and Baker. Williams' back end goes round, and Baker's through.
Baker is through, and a little bit of fighting behind there as well, involving Gilman, Blackhall and Falconer within the same piece of track here, coming in behind. So we got side by side between Palmer and Williams down in towards the hairpin. That resolves itself. Then we've got this battle too wide into the hairpin with Blackhall and Gilman. Falconer definitely involved. He can count Scheller in this one as well. It's quite a lively train for the final 5 minutes of this second race.
Yeah, it certainly is. Lively is the word that I would use. Just think Williams is just losing that little bit of time over everybody else, and he's dropping back. And for Williams, the worst thing for him is that now just 2 places back is Andreas Gilman, his nearest rival in the AM Championship. And after the good result that Gilman got in race number 1, Andreas has only made it 1 place in this race, but it's still moving towards Craig Williams, who has lost 2 places in this race. Flash of the headlights from Stefan Scheller. He's trying to make his way through. Oh, a little bit of a rub there between the 2 of them. Paddy Faulkner drops down a place. Here comes Andy Shield now in all of this. And it's 2 Hondas onto the back straight. And behind them, Martin Shirley now getting the good run. He's trying to get involved in all this. All of a sudden, Paddy Faulkner loses a couple of places, and it's not going his way in this second race of the evening.
Yeah, well, we see this battle head through Sunset Bend, the RDC sports car on the inside. Meanwhile, further up the field, Tony Weishaft trying to hold off Jack Cedric. Not an easy task here on the way down towards turn number 1, but Cedric gets to the inside. Set Source might be tempted to try and follow through in the tyre tracks as well, and there is a big attempt Again, got very close on the exit of turn 1, as these guys tend to do. It continues in the first sector, but Weishaupt gets tagged around into a slide, but is able to recover, except loses the position, comes out behind. That's Ross McFarlane.
I think he'll be happy that the implementation of the changes to the grass means it's no longer like ice once you get out there onto the grass. So I think Weishaupt will be happy about that. Not too happy about the punt to pass there that happened though between him and Setsource, but that's the change of position. And McFarlane won't be complaining. He'll be saying, "Oh, thanks very much. You're keeping me within a couple of places of my championship rivals." So happy days for the Scotsman as we're heading towards the final lap and a half here of this race. Wojciech Savinovic is in a very lonely race up at the front. He's now 3 seconds clear of Dan Martin, and the Semper Racing driver, well, he is a very experienced touring car racer here at iRacing. He's another driver that I've competed against for many years, and he's always been somewhere up there at the top when it comes to front-wheel drive machinery. So there's Wojciech in that Semper Racing car onto the Ulmann Straight, but behind him, Dan Martin and Damien Harris, is half a second between them. Harris is gaining, but not by much. So I think that one, it's just going to be a case of how that pans out on the last lap here of this race. Jack Sedgwick has gained 11 places. Ross McFarlane has gained 11 places in this race. Barney's waving the white flag. That means 1 lap to go here in this race number 2 of the evening, round number 20 of the World Touring Car Series. Sedgwick, Setsource and McFarlane across the line together. And then it's just, look at that, a queue of cars down the start and finish straight all the way back to Andreas Gilman in 13th.
They're all in a gaggle there, aren't they? Not all that much to separate these drivers in race 2, that's for sure. Still unsolved battles as well. Sedgwick and Setsource, they've been trying to sieve through the field together. And they've been pretty successful at doing so, but it might have to require a showdown here on the final lap to see which one finishes in that 5th place overall. So that'll be a very intriguing prospect here. If they get close enough, they are very close on the way in towards the hairpin. Maybe at the back end of the lap now, Setsource might be tempted to go for a move as long as McFarlane keeps himself that couple of tenths of a second off the back of them.
The problem for both of them, though, is they can't afford to get themselves embroiled in their own battle, because they could actually make a mistake and allow McFarlane past both of them, and that would help Ross in the championship. Damien Harris, by the way, is closed right up to the back of Dan Martin here. This is the Wave Italy driver of Harris, and he's going to be looking towards the end of the lap, but Martin's holding the middle of the road. He's setting his stall here, is Dan. He doesn't want to lose any more places in this race. Who's got to get the better run? Well, Harris made the apex a little bit more than Martin in front, and he's getting a great slipstream. The grunt of this Audi down the back straight. This is the original Audi TCR. Round the outside of Sunset Bend, that'll maybe cut back to the inside, but no, Martin's parked the car on the inside, but that means that Wojciech Savinovic then across the line for Semper Racing. Here's your race winner. Who's going to get second? It's going to be Martin over Harris. Fantastic result there for RD Simsport. Richard Simner is going to be your best AM driver here in this race, in 4th place overall, but your overall winner, Wojciech Savinovic. Great race from him at the front, made his way forward, and, well, speaking of moving forward, Richard Simner gained 3 places in that race, up into 4th. That's the top AM driver here today in the 2nd race of the evening. Action-packed, action aplenty in that 2nd race, and we've got another race yet to come in all of this. And of course, we've got the spin of a wheel to decide who is going to be on pole position. And well, let's find out who that's going to be right now. spinning the wheel. And it is going to be a big one. It's going to be a full grid reverse. 21 is the reverse grid for the final race of the evening. So let's take you through your provisional race results then for round number 20 of the World Touring Car Series, and it is 4.2 seconds is the lead in the end for Wojciech Savinovic over Dan Martin. So Semper Racing driver having a quiet day in the office in this second race. Dan Martin though for RD SimSport, great result for him, only just by a few hundredths of a second over Damien Harris for Wave Italy in third place. The AI Race Summaries DCW Racing yellow driver of Richard Simner finishes in fourth place ahead of the battling Jack Sedgwick and Cedric Setsource. Ross McFarlane, the race winner from race 1, he finishes in seventh place ahead of Tony Weishaft, with David Baker and Ben Palmer rounding out the top 10. 11th place for the Was Cooking by CSS driver of Craig Williams. That's at second place in AM class. Jake Blackhall is 12th ahead of the final AM podium sitter of Andreas Gilman for Impulse Racing in 13th. 14th place for Stefan Scheller ahead of Andy Shield, Paddy Faulkner and Martin Shirley. Slavomir Jaworski is the last of the runners, and then those that did not finish: Bibi Nykamp, Mikey Pollard, and the final driver was Elliot Roberts, who we saw have that big moment that was the big talking point of lap number 1, but there was plenty to talk about for the rest of the race as well, Connery. Certainly Elliot will feel quite aggrieved with what happened there on lap 1.
Yeah, absolutely, and that will mean that there's probably, I mean, it depends if they protest it, because if the incident's not protested in World Sim Racing, and it's not on the first lap, then... It
was on the first lap.
Oh, it was, so it's going to be one protested by default then, I guess. So, so Simner's... that we didn't get a clearer view of it, I will admit, so I don't think we can speak too much on it, but it did look not quite in the best light that Simner would have wanted it to be. So we'll see what the stewards say about that, after the event, because they make all the decisions after the event. So it may be that Simner doesn't finish fourth, maybe finishes a little bit further down. So yeah, we'll have to see on that one. But I mean, there's nothing that either of drivers could do about it now. So you just kind of have to look forward to that third race now.
Yeah, you have to. You've got to sort of put it into a cupboard, close that cupboard. Right, that's done now. We're moving on to the final race of the evening. It's a full reverse grid, so yeah, definitely great opportunities for a number of drivers out there. And I think someone like Stefan Scheller, this could actually be a good thing for Stefan, because finished in 14th overall is the top pro other than Slavomir Jaworski, is going to be starting up near the front of the grid. Great opportunities for some drivers to get a result out of maybe not the best day.
Yeah, it is, and that's the beauty of this type of racing here in the World Sim Racing sphere, I suppose, because it's a similar situation in the GT Championship, where in these later races of the race day, you might see some surprises towards the very front of the field. So again, still a lot to look forward to here. So you don't want to go away, because we've had some fantastic action already. It just seems like there's so much more to come here at this stage of the competition. So I'm excited for what Race 3 has to bring. Paul, you probably are as well. It's just that we have to wait to get that server running.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be coming very shortly indeed. I can see it on the list. Savinovic, he's got the hard work now. He started at the back of the grid in race number 1, don't forget. He was able to start the front in race 2 from that reverse grid. Now he's going to be starting all the way from the back again. It must be thinking, oh, it's Groundhog Day. It's back to race 1 again.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's swings and roundabouts, isn't it? It's I know that's a phrase I don't say often. I know you say it often, so it's so I'm trying to steal one of your catchphrases there. But But yeah, I mean, we've seen what he's capable of. He's certainly comfortable in situations where he's having to try and cut through the field. So I don't think he'll struggle. That's for certain. But yeah, could have had probably slightly better circumstances given what he was given.
Yeah, absolutely. And there will be a couple of drivers out there who will be looking for a bit of redemption in this third race, especially after a couple of the incidents that we've seen out there in race number 2. So you do make sure that you stick around with us here, because it's going to be round 21 of the World Touring Car Series here on RaceSpotTV. We'll be with you very shortly indeed, right after we hear from the series sponsors. Welcome back then to coverage of the World Touring Car Series. It's week number 7 of the championship and the final race of the evening, round 21 of the season, and we are going into sunset here at Sebring International Raceway, and certainly going to be a challenge for those drivers with the headlights on to be able to see themselves out towards the end of the race. Just want to remind you that on Monday evening it is the start of the second half of the season in the World GT Championship from World Sim Racing, with an endurance race around the road course of the Daytona International Speedway. Make sure you join RaceSpotTV for all the action from that round at the Daytona International Speedway, and that will be on Monday evening at broadcast starting from 5 to 8 UK time. It's 5 to 7 UTC for those of you who use Universal Code. And well, look at those conditions. The temperature has cooled out there on track. We've gone back to partly cloudy skies, but it is darker. And what effect will that have on the drivers out here today, Connery?
Well, it's for those that are not used to the endurance side of iRacing, it might be a bit more of a foreign concept to those that do have experience. However, when it's dark like this, you're perhaps a little bit more susceptible to tunnel vision. It's just, it's a psychological thing. Your peripheral vision perhaps not quite, your brain not quite focused on it a little bit more. You're focused on those lights ahead, and you can be very, very easily blindsided by an issue that you perhaps did not expect. And There's something to be said about, again, another psychological impact of your body just feeling tired when it thinks it's dark. You know, it sounds kind of silly because you're like, wait, because it's dark in sim. You know, your body's not necessarily going to respond to that, but sometimes it does. So I mean, we're getting a little bit late into the evening here in the European side of things, anyway, which most of these drivers, if not all of them, are from. So you know that starts to sell in as well. But yeah, it's a little bit of a different beast here, racing in these sorts of hours compared to our usual daytime running.
There's only Jake Blackhall who's racing outside of Europe, although saying that, I do believe Andy Shield races out from America. So two drivers who are not in the European evening here, and it is a very dark evening out there now as autumn is starting to descend on us here in the northern hemisphere. It's the opposite though for Jake Blackhall. He'll be feeling more and more awake the further into this evening it goes, so race 3 might actually be his best race yet.
I mean, it could be. They're all contributing factors, of course, especially when the field is so close. You do need that slight edge, because that slight edge might mean a position or two at the end of the day. So important things to consider. We are very close now to getting our final race of the day underway. Our full reverse grid in effect as well. A recipe for some decent action, that's for sure.
We have lost a couple of drivers actually. Mikey Pollard, who I don't think he saw the end of lap 1 in either race. He's not in the race server right now, and I do not see Elliot Roberts either in the server, so he could well be missing the start of this race, which would only mean a 19-car grid. Normally with these reverse grids in a series like this, it's quite a big field, and you do get those odd results with pro drivers not getting the race win. But on an evening like this, when the grid is a little bit smaller, again, it's an opportunity for pro drivers to get themselves some big points in these reverse grid races. Yep,
always an opportunity here. And you just got to take them as things go. You know, you can't be squandering opportunities like this. Like you said, with the small grid. Yes, it means that the reverse grids tend to be a little bit more full, so to speak, as we see Dan Martin have a altercation with the Armco barrier. But yeah, I mean, that's what might decide championships at the end of the day, because heading into this week we had 8 points separating McFarlane and Cedric, and you know it could even be that close coming out of this week as well.
Clock is counting down here in this practice session for these drivers to just get their last few moments of practice of what the conditions are like, and then we'll get ourselves ready for the final race of this evening in the World Touring Car Series. Brought to you by Bookkicker, of course, 3M UK as well. Mr. Hedge, don't forget him with his in-sim photography. Does a fantastic job with his sim photography, that is for sure. So do make sure you check out those series sponsors. But with the time counting down to 0, we will get ourselves a grid formed for this final race of the evening. It's another 20 minutes of action coming up for you here, and we will go through that starting grid in just a few seconds time, because it is going to be on pole position here. Slavomir Jaworski then for Semper Racing. He's on pole. Alongside him on the front row of the grid is Martin Shirley for RD Simsport. Paddy Faulkner and Andy Shield share row number 2. Stefan Scheller and Andreas Gilman on row number 3. Fourth row of the grid is Jake Blackhall and Craig Williams, with Ben Palmer and David Baker sharing the 5th row of this starting grid. Row number 6 is Tony Weishaft and Ross McFarlane. 7th row, Sindra Setsource and Jack Sedgwick, with Richard Simner and Damien Harris. Dan Martin and Wojciech Savinovic, who was your race winner from that last race on 18th. And then because on the count of him not finishing that race, Wiebe Nijkamp actually starts from the back of the grid. Because you do have to be at least one lap down to be able to qualify for a reverse grid pole position. So, drivers getting themselves set up on the starting grid. Just got a couple of more drivers to get themselves down to the start of this one. Nightfall descends here on Sebring International Raceway in the Florida Panhandle, and certainly we are going to get to see what these drivers can do with these change of conditions here tonight. The last of the drivers are going to be on the grid, and we will now look up towards Barney the flagman on the flag stand. He is getting ready for the start of this one. Slavomir Jaworski, this is a tremendous opportunity after having 2 races from the back of the grid tonight. Starts from pole position. Revs rise. Wait for the start of this one. Green flag, and we're underway for the final race of the evening here in the World Sim Racing Touring Cars. Down towards turn number 1. It's a great start from Jaworski on the front of the grid. In towards turn 1 they go, and they all fan out 2-3 wide. Through turn 1, it's going to be really wide for Martin Shirley. That allows Paddy Faulkner through. Oh, we're almost going 3 wide into turn number 3 here. And there's a car gone off, I can tell you, in the background of shot, and it's Tony Weishaft who's gone off into the braking zone of turns 3. Heading through Big Bend for the first time, underneath the bridge, heading towards the hairpin, and these drivers will be looking towards their brake marker. Of course, with the darker conditions here, the brake marker that you've been using might not be available to you. As it's getting close, there's a Craig setup truck car just running wide then through the shot then at the hairpin. It will stay green flag racing, and it's Scheller now trying to hold on to 4th place, but Andy Shield to the inside. One of your series admins here, Shield. A little bit of a rub, he goes through, and Jake Blackall wasn't able to take advantage of that because he got all sort of loose into Cunningham. In towards Tower they go, onto the brakes, dive down the inside of the Impulse Racing car goes Craig Williams, and that, crucially, is Andreas Gilman he's overtaken. In towards the back end of the circuit here now, just sorting themselves out in this opening lap here. Yes, it's a 19-car grid, but still, they're all close. Action car off into the runoff there. That's David Baker now. He's got wide. Whether he was assisted or whether it was just cold tyres, Setsource getting forced wide through the exit of Le Mans Corner. Down the Ullman Straight for the first time. Well, there's been plenty of action going on, and we're going to go 4 wide in towards. Oh my goodness, hold your breath everybody, because 4 wide into Sunset Bend usually doesn't go. There's a contact, there's a bang. Oh, and through the inside. That's going to be a tremendous move if it pulls off for the Impulse Racing driver of Andreas Gilman. Oh, there's a car fired off into the barrier in the background of shots. That was Dan Martin for the second time this evening. We've got a spinner, that's Nijkamp. No, it's Gilman. Gilman's around. My goodness, what on earth has happened on this opening lap?
Chaos, absolute chaos. 4 wide into Sunset Bend, are you kidding me? They were pretty much 4 wide coming off as well. Oh, a bit of an issue there for Martin Shirley, as Shirley now has to drop back into a battle with Andy Shield. So Shield attempted to get himself onto the podium here. We'll have to go back and look at replays of those incidents that happened before, but we might not even get the opportunity to, because they're still fighting here inside of the top 5. They all fan out 2 by 2 into the heavy braking zone at the hairpin. There's the Blackhall, one of the Pure Sims cars, trying to fire his way through on that entire situation. Finally, they get themselves single file so we can have a chance having a look at what exactly happened just a couple of laps ago, unless they don't give us a chance again.
Craig Williams making moves there to move forward. Andy Shield still battling away with Scheller now, and Stefan trying to move forward. I said that Stefan could be a bit of a dark horse for this race, but let's have a look back then to what happened. This is Dan Martin, this is through the final corner, and it's just two cars, one the Impulse Racing car, I think it was, now that was Nykamp, that they sort of got hooked together, did the two cars. There's Nykamp, and they just get hooked together, both cars, and into the wall, and then look forward. Well, this is, let's look forward to, 3 into 1, and Gilman is they all wanted the same piece of road there.
Yeah, they absolutely did. They absolutely did, and it's such a foreign concept to go 4 wide through there. I didn't quite get the right angle there, but it's just a bit silly.
All that. I think it was McFarlane that was behind them, and he gets a bit lucky in all that Gilman's car didn't collect him through there. Coming through, this is the onboard, so he's had to check up as McFarlane, and then just the three of them. Whoa! Suddenly, there's a big open space there for me.
Yeah, there is. So the Red Sea parted for Ross McFarlane, but we will return to the live pictures because we have had an incident. Blackhall dropping down the order. Blackhall in the tyre barriers. What has happened to the Bill Sims Civic that he's now out of the race?
Craig Williams is having a ding-dong battle as well on the timing screen, I can see, with Andy Shield. Let's have a look then to what happened to Blackhall. This is on Shield, down the inside, and now they're going to get hooked together. Yes, they are. And that's unfortunate to find the tyre barrier, but I wouldn't mind going to live pictures because Craig Williams has done an incredible job of moving forward to third place in all of this, because Andy Shield, but look at the gaggle of cars behind him. It seems to be everybody else is battling for third place right now in this race. Oh, more craziness. There's a car sideways. That's Scheller. Scheller, has he held on to it? Yes, he has. My goodness, big moment there. But this is craziness, is this pack.
Look at this, 2x2x2. That's like 5 rows deep there. That is absolutely crazy. And a great bit of driving to hold the slides from a couple of the cars there as well. It's always great to see as we see the Scheller and Baker. It gets a little too close for comfort, doesn't it?
I can tell you that third down to 15th is covered by 4.5 seconds. As we're going to slow down penalty, I think, for one of the cars. It's Andy Shield. After starting up near the front, he's dropping down the order with a slow down penalty. There's the Damien Harris is getting side by side. We're almost going 4 wide again into Sunset Bend. We saw on lap 1 that doesn't work. Harris has got a massive dent in his boot lid. Coming out of Sunset Bend they go, on to start another lap, and it's just carnage here in this third and final race of the evening. Well, you've got to say, it's why you all tune in, isn't it? It's fantastic action. Maybe a bit too rough and ready at parts, but this is sensational stuff to see this pack of cars all still running here at the tail end of the top 10.
Yep, it really is, and the battle still rage on as we see Baker and Scheller get involved in it. I think they're just about single file for the first time in what feels like an eternity, but that doesn't last for long, as that's Savinovic turned. I think it was by set source.
That's race 2 winner, Wojciech Savinovic. He's found the grass and found the wall. Let's have a look back then. We're trying, so it's set source who's there, and it's a question of, does Wojciech just try and narrow the gap? Does set source have his nose in there and move out? Again, it's a car just getting quarter panelled around and down towards the hairpin. I think a few of these drivers do need to calm down a little bit as well, though, and learn to give some space there, and learn that a throttle pedal does actually work both ways. You can back out of something if a back gap is closing as well in that sort of situation.
Yeah, we've seen that exact mirror situation happening a few times over the course of the 3 races that we've had today. So it does need to somewhat be addressed. Maybe a reminder in the driver's briefing for the next round about the correct behaviour in situations like that. Again, the fights don't end though. Scheller and Set Source are the ones going wheel to wheel now down the back straight. Although it is Scheller that has the slipstream from a car ahead. We're seeing swapping for positions between McFarlane and Simner as well, as this battle continues on in towards Sunset Bend. Nightcamp getting involved as well.
I think the term that you wanted to use is the driving etiquette.
Yes.
Is what race directors and race control and that like to say. Clerk of the courses, they always like to say the etiquette, the driving etiquette of people out there. And sometimes you do need to almost become teacher, telling off class and saying, right, you're all in detention. Even those that weren't actually involved in any instance, I don't care, you're all in detention. And sometimes you've got to treat race drivers like that. I know from being a team manager in my day job that sometimes you've got to treat people like children, unfortunately, because they behave like it that time sometimes. But this is still together. This is still Set Source, Nijkamp and Scheller down towards the hairpin. I think they're finally just sorting themselves out. Let's just quickly run through the standings as they are right now. It's Slavomir Jaworski who leads this race by 1.5 seconds over Patrick Faulkner. Patrick Faulkner is also the top AM driver in this race in 2nd place. He's got to be careful though, because Craig Williams is closing up behind him. Williams is the 2nd place AM, third place driver overall in this race. Ben Palmer is following Williams with Cedric. Cedric has got some significant damage to the front of his car. He's in 5th, ahead of championship rival Ross McFarlane. I mean, this evening has been pretty good if you're in Ross McFarlane's boots.
Yeah, it really has. Good points haul from each of the 3 races so far. So yeah, it's looking all right for McFarlane. I don't want to bring you back to the whole group of you have to treat the drivers like a group of kids sometimes, because as someone who does have a teaching qualification and has taught 16 to 18-year-olds, I'm still not sure which I'd rather prefer, a group of sim racing drivers or a group of 16 to 18-year-olds.
Sometimes the race drivers are worse, let's be honest. Not all the time, no, to be fair to but this is what competitive sim racing can bring out in people, as McFarlane and Cedric. Now Cedric will want to try and hang on as much as possible, but I don't know how much he's aware of just how much damage there is on the front of his Audi, and McFarlane's looking to the inside, not making the move though for the time being, but there is significant damage to the front left corner of Jack Cedric's car, and that'll be hampering him not just down the straights but also in corners as well. He'll be feeling that just pulling maybe slightly to one side as McFarlane then looking to the outside, but Cedric very experienced. McFarlane with the switch back to the inside under braking, not making the move quite yet as they come out the hairpin another time. And they've got Richard Simner who's just sat there. If you're Simner, do you get involved in this, Connery? Because you're 3rd place in AM right now.
It's hard to say. I mean, the gap from Cedric to Palmer is quite significant, 1.8 seconds. Realistically, this is the only group that you're going to be coming across over the course of the rest of this race. I think what you do is just let the guys in front sort it out. If there's a gap you can fit through, then go for it, of course. But I personally wouldn't be pressing the issue myself.
So go through towards the end of the lap. Once again, McFarlane looking to the outside. The thing is, Cedric is placing his car absolutely perfectly. But, now McFarlane, can he look to the inside? No, he can't, of Lamar. Cedric now just needs to hold his line. We're on board with Simner. And look at that, Cedric straight away to the inside. McFarlane using the slipstream. Cedric's gone back to the racing line, to be fair. And down into Sunset Bend they go, and they stay as they are. Now we have had a change for second place. Craig Williams has made the move past Patrick Faulkner, so that's up to second place now for your AM Championship leader with 6 minutes to go in this race. Ross McFarlane in the background of shot. He's trying to get past Cedric now around the outside of one. Can he hold that one? If you can hold it around the outside, you can get a better run out the corner, but it leaves you to the outside. But no, he's going to get through, is he? No, he isn't, because Cedric fights back. There's a rub of door handles. They carry on side by side. Simner, well, where do you go if you're Richard Simner in all of this? I'd be following Ross McFarlane myself right now, because he's got the inside for not only this corner, but the hairpin as well.
Yeah, I think this was the angle I pick as well. Try and follow through in the tyre tracks. The Pure Sims car ahead, our championship leader, on the brakes in towards the hairpin. Is this move going to be done? It is for it is for McFarlane. Not quite for Simner, as he's going to get squeezed onto, up against the curb on the exit there. A bit cheeky there from Cedric.
I think he was entitled to. With that, there wasn't enough of an overlap for Simner to claim the line, and now Simner's got Damien Harris behind. Harris, by the way, is up 8 places. So too is Simner. So too is Cedric. McFarlane's up 7 places. Craig Williams in second place is up 6 places. So he's had a really, really good run of this from the start of the race. Big losers in this: Martin Shirley and also Stefan Scheller. Andreas Gilman, of course, having that major impact with the wall down the start and finish straight. As we carry on with these drivers, 4.5 minutes remaining in this race, and certainly these drivers, I don't think this is all done yet. I think Simner can still make some moves if he can get close enough to Cedric, but Harris, he's trying to make some moves, but that damage to the rear of his car will be hampering him slightly.
Yeah, not going to get maximum performance out of that car now, that's for sure. So it's going to be a bit of a struggle for the end of this race. Just 4 minutes to go, though. Not a lot of laps to do before this event is concluded. So we won't have to suffer a bit for too much longer.
I will say, fastest driver, or second fastest driver, should I say, on track right now on that last lap. Well, it says, I say that as the times keep on coming. The 4th fastest driver on track is actually Craig Williams, who gained over a second on Jaworski, a race winner, race leader, should I say. So it's gone from 2 second gap down to a 1 second gap with about possibly 2.5 laps to go in this race. If Williams keeps that pace up, we've got to fight for a win. And Craig Williams could get us once again another race win from a reverse grid draw.
He does seem to be a bit of a reverse grid specialist, does Craig Williams. To do it once is surprising. To do it twice is okay, maybe a bit lucky, but to do it so many times, that's more than luck. And for Craig Williams, once again, in a position where he can try and challenge for that race win. A little bit of a change for position behind. Set source past Shirley. That's for P11 out there on circuit. But yeah, Craig Williams is going like a bat out of hell here at the moment. The gap's dropped down to 9/10 of a second, certainly within slipstreaming distance as well. And that time is going to be quickly tumbling down once we get to a straight.
McFarlane gets past Palmer here. This is working out perfectly for Ross McFarlane in the championship. Craig Williams, by the way, this season alone, he won the race number 2 of the evening at Jerez. He also won race number 2 of the evening at Imola. So he certainly has got experience of getting those race wins in reverse grid draws. And again, he's closed up a bit more. I reckon we've got 1 lap remaining here because the clock is under 2 minutes, so we should have 1 lap remaining actually here. It's going to be a tall order for Williams, for the Was Cooking by CSS driver, but He's certainly got the bit between his teeth. He could see his target in front, and just look at how much he gained just on the entry into turn number 1 there. He is gaining. He's got a target set right now.
He absolutely does, and the mistake on entry a little bit there for Jaworski, which is not going to help the issue whatsoever. And now the gap stands at 0.4 of a second. Let's see the drive that Williams gets off the corner here. This will allow him to open it up a little bit more, get a bit more of an advantage coming through Big Bend. This time around, heading onto the Mobile 1 bridge now. Is there an opportunity for a late lunge? Well, Williams, he's tempted to go for it, shows the nose, and Jaworski's lost the apex.
And that's it. He's forced Jaworski to look in his mirrors. He makes the mistake, and now Williams has got the bit between his teeth. He knows what it takes to win here. Jaworski, he wants to get a win though. But they're side by side into Cunningham. Force Williams the long way around, but that gives you the inside and contact between the two of them. Oh, it's forceful and into the wall. That's both of them. Ross McFarlane's going to come through and take the win. Wow, my goodness, the last lap of the race. You didn't need to bash door handles and smash into each other. I'm sorry, that is poor between both of them. But McFarlane is laughing all the way to the checkered flag because he's only got a few more corners to go here, and he could be on for another race win this evening. He won the opening race of the evening in quite good style, but now he's got a good gap. Here comes Ben Palmer on Paddy Faulkner. Can Faulkner hold off Palmer, or does he just let Palmer through here? Palmer's not in his fight. He's a pro driver compared to an AM. Faulkner does the sensible thing there. Can he get the cutback though? No, but look to the front. Ross McFarlane, he'll be loving that, absolutely loving it, because it goes from 3rd place to a race win here in round 21 of the World Touring Car Series. Paddy Faulkner finishes 3rd, but he's the top AM in this race. We've had carnage, we've had chaos, we've had some questionable moves as well, it must be said. But what a result for DCW Racing, because it's 1st and 2nd in the AM class. They're in 3rd and 5th places.
We've got to look at it, Paul. We've got to look at it. There's the initial bit of contact. That's really nothing, but that is something a little bit more. We're going to have to look at it from a different angle.
It's almost as if I mean, the initial contact is from a bit of a squeeze there, but then it's almost as if it's almost as if Williams is coming across because he's on the power. The car naturally understeers when you're on full throttle through that left-hander, and it's almost like he's not given the space to Jaworski, and Jaworski's had to park the car because it's completely damaged beyond repair. There's the initial contact. It doesn't need. It isn't needed.
No, it isn't, and I'm trying to get a little bit of a better view of this, which will perhaps show us something a little different.
He's on the curb though, is Williams, to be fair.
Yeah, Williams can't get really much tighter to the curb there, can he?
No. But both drivers have got to both look at each other in the mirror there and think, come on, I could have been better there.
Yeah.
And that's lost them both a podium.
It has.
At the end of the day, they've only themselves to blame.
You are absolutely right. You are absolutely right there, Paul. It's you don't like seeing it. You just don't like seeing it, despite us replaying it 10 times. But it's but.
Well, one driver who's delighted about it is Ross McFarlane. He doesn't want to win in that way. I know Ross, he will hate winning in that way. But you can't look a gift horse in the mouth and not not take the result. That is for sure. Well, what we will do is we'll talk through the very provisional results here for this round 21 of the World Touring Car Series. And it is Ross McFarlane then who does take the win by a second over for the Pure Sims esports driver over the 3M UK driver of Ben Palmer. Patrick Faulkner for AI Race Summaries DCW Racing Yellow finishes in third place and takes the AM win here. So that's 2 AM wins for DCW Racing here tonight. Jack Sedgwick finishes fourth ahead of Richard Simner in fifth for the AI Race Summaries DCW Racing Yellow team. Damien Harris in sixth ahead of David Baker. Sindri Setzhorse in eighth ahead of Andy Shield, who's the third place AM driver for 3M UK. Stefan Scheller rounding out your top 10. 11th for VB Nijkamp with Martin Shirley in 12th. Wojciech Savinovic 13th, and then drivers who were affected by various incidents. Dan Martin finishes in 14th place ahead of Slavomir Jaworski, who does actually get classified as finishing 15th then in that race. Craig Williams, I mean, Jaworski led 8 laps of that 9-lap race. He finishes 15th ahead of Craig Williams in 16th. Andreas Gilman 17th. Tony Weishaft 18th. And then the non-finisher is Jake Blackall. Well, I think we can safely say that tonight has been one of the most controversial rounds of the World Touring Car Series here, Connery. It has been some questionable incidents happening out there tonight, and we hate to see it. We do hate to see it. We want to see really good, hard, close racing. Unfortunately, some of the driving, in my opinion, has been a bit substandard there tonight.
Yeah, I mean, it's brutally honest, so definitely can't say anything against that. But you know, it is a little bit of a shame because it's been a lot better this season in that regards. I remember back to the first couple of seasons where we had humongous wrecks every single lap one, and we haven't had that this season. And actually, we haven't had that today. It's just these little unnecessary incidents that have happened that have really let people down in that sense, and that's the incident that we had in the last lap there was basically the summary of it basically. So yeah, we have to see what results from that incident. I have no doubt that's going to be protested. I've been keeping a very close eye on the Discord, shall we say, to see if there's anyone that wanted to say anything about it in there. But yeah, it's. I mean, for me, if you want me to make a judgment on that, I feel like Jaworski pinched Williams too much to the inside there, but they're both kind of responsible for that situation. It's just that the responsibility lies, for me, a little bit more on Jaworski than it does Williams. But both of them shouldn't have been in that situation in the first place.
No, they should both be celebrating on the podium and saying what a hard-fought but close race that was between the two of them. Well, if that wasn't enough for you from the World Touring Car Series, next week we head on over to Watkins Glen for 3 races, 3 20-minute races around there. I mean, it's a slipstream track, is Watkins Glen. It reminds you of Monza earlier in the season. It's an old school track as well, with really close barriers to the side of it as well.
Yeah, not long enough. So it's certainly a track where mistakes are punished. But although with the new surface model on the grass, I guess it'll be perhaps a little bit less of an issue now this season than it has been in any previous season of iRacing. So getting 2 tyres into the dirt is actually much more recoverable than it used to be. Let's just say that. So I wouldn't be expecting to see as many problems as we've seen previously there, but again, could be wrong. But I've always liked Watkins Glen as a track. I've always had pretty decent races to commentate on there with decent action. So certainly looking forward to week 8 of the season.
Absolutely, it's going to be one that we look forward to. Indeed, it's one of those classic circuits that we all love. But that is, I'm afraid, all that we're going to have time for you here tonight on RaceSpotTV. Don't forget that the second half of the World GT Championship from World Sim Racing starts on Monday evening, so make sure you join us for that. But from everybody here, from myself, Paul Smith, from Conor Ramatica, who's been pulling double duty and feeling under the weather, it's a goodbye from us all here. Goodbye.